So I'm going to begin by gessoing this 8x8 canvas. It's a gallery wrap canvas, and I'm going to give the canvas a couple of coats of black gesso. So what I'll do is I'll start off slow and then I'll speed up and go to the end when the canvas is completely covered and ready to start creating on. Okay, so my canvas has now had 2 coats of black gesso and it's all been heat set, so it's all now very nice and dry. Now I'm going to put this to one side now, and I'm going to go into my my junk tub, and I'm going to pull out some items that I want to use on the front cover. So I'm going to delve into that, but I just want to show you this old photograph that I've got of Aunt Vera. So this is an old photograph of my Aunt Vera, and I'm going to use her on the front cover or on this canvas as well. So I've just trimmed off some of the edges because I'm going to sit her in this bottom right hand corner, and as you can see we're definitely getting into that Halloween theme, and she will sit just there. So, but let's find those items from my junk tub. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I have my canvas. I've gone through my junk tub and pulled out a pile of things that I might want to use on the canvas. I have some burlap pieces from my stash. I have some pieces of punchinella that were recently sent to me by Penny, and I have some cheesecloth which I'm going to use towards the end. Now I've got this out, but I'm going to keep that back to use towards the end of the actual canvas itself, but it's there ready. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding some texture to the canvas now by sticking some of these items down. I'm going to use hot glue gun. He says throwing the stick on the floor. So I'm going to use a combination of hot glue gun, I'm going to use a combination of gel medium, and any other types of glue that I think are appropriate for what I'm trying to stick down. So you don't have to stick to just one glue or adhesive when you're doing a canvas. You really use what you've got to hand and also what you think is going to be the best medium for the item you're going to stick down. Now some of these items here are metal, some are paper, so I'm just going to go through and add what I think is appropriate. So for probably some of the thinner ones I'll use the gel medium. Now this is gloss. I don't really want to use it because it is gloss. I'd rather I used a matte medium for it. So it depends on what I can pull out of my stash as I'm going along. So what I'm going to do now then is I'm going to go on to fast forward, because this does take quite a while. This is probably going to take about an hour. So I will fast forward this so that you're not sat there waiting and just watching me stick things down for forever. So I will speed through it, but I'll let you watch the process of it building up, and then I'll join you back at the end when I'm happy with the position of everything. Okay, I will see you in a minute and let the magic begin. Okay, I think for now that's it. I'm just going to add one small piece in just up towards where that key is there, just as a final piece there. And I'm fairly happy-ish with the position of all this stuff down here. I'm happy that it's all going to stay where it is. So make sure nothing's going to fall off. No, everything's fine. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to have a quick tidy up here, and then I'm going to, I've still got one or two other pieces that I want to add in towards the end, but I don't want them covering with gesso, or I want them to stay the same colour as they are at the moment. So I've got quite a lot of strings that I need to get rid of from the glue, but they will just brush off when you start adding your first coat of your gesso. So that's exactly what I'm going to do now. I'm now going to start covering over everything with the gesso. Obviously I'm going to try and blend the edges of the photograph out as well, but I will add some more texture in with that, with some texture paste in a little while. So first thing to do is just to get a fairly cleanish brush. And I'm not being too bothered at this stage about fine detail. I just want to get as much gesso on that as I can. So I'm just going to begin by adding the gesso into all the texture and trying to get as much of that into all the nooks and crannies as I possibly can. So this is where the process begins of unifying all of the colour on the canvas, because at the minute it just looks like a hot mess and everything just looks like it's out of place and nothing looks like it's there. It just looks like it's plonked. So this is the process that we go through to try and start blending out all of those strange colours that don't quite look like they belong. So I'm going to put some more music back on and I'm going to carry on adding the colour, and I'll be back when I'm happy with the first coat. So first coat. Now, word of warning, if you've never done a canvas like this before and you do use a hot glue gun and you're using a heat gun to dry your gesso, just be careful. If you've used metal items on your canvas and you've used the heat gun, then they will get hot. So, and if you've used a hot glue gun, then the glue may start to melt again, and that gets very, very hot too. So just be aware, if you're using metal items and you're using a hot glue gun, just please be careful and be aware that there is a lot of hot temperatures and heat involved. So don't say you weren't warned. So I'm going to carry on now and just add the second coat, because I want to make sure that everything is covered. All the nooks and crannies that I may have missed will get caught on that second pass. So I'm just going to go ahead again and just add that second coat, and I'll be right back. Okay, so all dry, still a little bit warm. You can, if you want to, leave this to dry overnight and to cool down, just to be on the safe side, but for the purposes of this I'm not going to, because I'm very, very impatient. So what I'm going to try and do now is I'm going to take some post-it notes, and I'm just going to try and gently cover over my lady's face, because I don't want to get any splatters covering her face. Now, the reason I'm being extra careful with this is because the surface of the photograph is uneven. It's what they call lenticular, which means that it's got grooves on it. If I do that with my nail, you can hear that. So that's how it gets that little animation effect. So I'm just going to try and make a little bit of a mask before I start adding on some colour. Now, I've already pre-made up a spritzer with some orange paint. Now, I'm hoping, yeah, that still works fine. So I'm just going to give this a little bit of a squirt around the canvas. Now, I'm using orange because it's a Halloween canvas, and black and orange is a great combination for Halloween. Now, yes, it is messy. Look at the state of that, and it's gone all over my trousers, but don't worry about that. And I'm just going to shuffle that and then grab a cloth, quickly wipe that up, and then we can move on to drying and toning down. So all of the paint in there is now going to rest in all those nooks and crannies, and when I heat set it, it will move it a little bit and it will dye back. Okay, so the orange is now dry. So Halloween colours, you've got black, orange, and I've got some green, and I've got some purple. So this is the Indigo Blue English Cottage Artist acrylic paint in Emerald City, and this is the same in the purple, which is called Aladdin. Now, I've also just taken out some of the Ruby Slippers, which is red as well. So these are metallic acrylic paints. So again, they're very high in pigment, and they're very very sparkly. So these will be perfect to make spritzers with. So I'm going to go ahead and make a spritzer up with the purple and a spritzer up with the green as well. So, because I've already got my orange coat on there. So I will be back when I've made those spritzers. Okay, I'm just interrupting what I'm doing, so I just had a thought. There's me talking about making a spritzer up. There's the purple one that's already been done. If you've never made a spritzer before from acrylic paint, then I have got a video showing you how to do it, which I will link in the description area below. But if you can't be bothered to go hunting for it, then I will show you quickly how to make a spritzer. So I've taken one of my spritzer bottles, and I've added, as you can see, you probably can't see, there's probably about a third water in that bottle. So I've added the water already. You don't have to add it first. It doesn't matter which way around you do this. I'm taking my paint And we're going to take the top off. I have a spatula, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to add about 3 spatula fulls into the water. Just straight in. Now let me just move the canvas out of the way just for now, because I don't want to dribble over the top. So about 3 full spatulas. Now this, if you look after the spritzer, will last you for ages if you want to keep this. Now normally I just make up enough for what I'm doing and then wash it all out again. And that should do us. Now literally all I'm doing is just scraping the paint, all the excess into there, dump the palette knife in some water, put the lid back on your acrylic paint and put it away. So you then take your spritzer lid and then just give it the old shake, and there's a spritzer, a metallic spritzer, all made up, ready to work with, and it's as easy as that. So I've mine locked. Now you watch this. Look, I've probably ended up blocking my spritzer tube. No. Yeah, it's starting to come out, so I can now start spraying some of that green into the canvas. There we go. Now I don't mind getting some in splatters, and I don't mind it running, and I will just wipe it away from Auntie's face, but I don't mind a little bit of that colour running down into it because it won't spoil the effect. And then grab a baby wipe and just clean up after me. Now I always will heat set between colour applications, so you'll probably find that I'll do this 2 or 3 times depending on how the paint is settling in. So I'm just going to heat set this one. So I think that'll do it for that one. Now it's already started to look all sort of rusty, verdigris, kind of mouldy, which is perfect for what we want. Now you can see some of that metallic paint just shining in there already. So what I'm going to do is I will just take a wet wipe and then just gently rub round, just to remove a little bit of that excess paint if I don't want it. Now because I've done this on plastic, then it does rub off quite easy and just creates a nice kind of framing effect for Aunt Vera, if you like. So you can actually blend it a little bit with that wet wipe. Just rub it in. And then just give her face a wipe. And then you can carry on. So I'm now going to add in the purple. Make sure it's all coming out. That's it. Now before I start on that, I'm actually going to get rid of that. Because knowing me, I'm going to put my elbow in it. Okay. So here we go. Now I am making sure that this time it does run. Just give it a little bit of help. Perfect. Okay, quick cloth, quick wipe up, and then let's get that heat blasted. So I'll be right back. All starting to come together. So I'm going to add a little bit more colour, just give that a bit more of a shake up. Add some darker colour over there. And a few more splotches just there. And then I'm going to take the green and just add a couple more hits over here. Just adding a few little highlights of the colour. Now it doesn't matter if you get splatters, because that just adds to the overall effect. So let's just give that a bit of a heat. And the beautiful thing about these type of canvases is that you can carry on adding the colour as much or as little as you want. So you might think, oh, actually I want to add a little bit more purple in just where that bit is there, and I wouldn't mind just a tiny little fraction in there, and maybe a little bit more in there. Then add it. It's entirely up to you. But heat set in between, because once you've heat set, it becomes permanent. As if you can hear me over the noise of this very noisy heater. And then when you're ready, you can then start adding the rest of your colour. So if you want to add in some red, you can do. If you also wanted to add in some splatters of white, some silver, I haven't quite finished just yet, because I've still got a few more bits and pieces that I want to add to this. So I'm just about done with adding the colour. I do want to add some red in, but only a little bit of red. So I've only made up a very, very tiny amount of the ruby slippers. And all I'm going to do is just to add in some tiny splats. And that's all I'm going to add in. Look, that's leaked all of my trousers, look. Another pair ruined. So, nearly finished. So we're now, we can pop the paints away. I'm done with the paints. So all those cloths and dirty patches you can get rid of. Now I'm going to take some cheesecloth and I'm going to cut some strands of this cheesecloth just with a pair of scissors. Let's see if we can try and open this out now. And then I'm going to just glue some of this down across the top. So I'm just going to use the glue gun because I want it to be a little bit loose. So I'm just going to add a blob of glue up there and just with the nozzle just pat that in. Don't use your finger like I've just done because it really, really is hot. That's it. And then just strategic points. Stick it down. And then you can just catch it wherever you want until you've got it just about where you want it. And then just leave that for a second or two just to cool down, and then you can add your finishing touches. in this instance for me. I'm just going to add one big spider in that corner, like so, and then one more. Just make sure I've got plenty of glue. And then the other spider is going to crawl like so. And then I've got one last little item to add, just as a tiny little embellishment. Okay.
French fingers a lot.
What time is it?
4.
Really? Yeah.
Will be a while.
Okay. And then for my finishing touch, I'm just going to take a very small brush. Now I want one that's got fairly stiff bristle to it. So let's just have a look what we've got in our collection. That one will do nicely. And I'm going to take some copper acrylic paint. Now I'm using copper rather than gold because copper is more orangey than gold is. So therefore, what did I do with the brush? Oh, there it is. And I'm just going to take a little bit of copper paint, like so, dry brush, and I'm just going to highlight using the brush. So just catch the edges. Dry brush as well, not wet in any way, and that will catch the highlights and just gently go around catching. I don't know whether you can see that. It's just catching the edges and bringing those little items to life. And then just flick over the flowers, and that will create that, just catching them on the edges. Just quickly go over the spider. Because it's acrylic paint, it will take on the spider as well. And you can really just go around now, catching and highlighting as much of those highlights as you want. And then you keep on going until you're happy. So I'm just going to carry on adding all my little highlights to it, and then I will be right back. And there you have it, one Halloween canvas with icky spiders. That'll make people look twice if they're hanging on the wall. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this spooky Halloween canvas tutorial. If you have, please remember to give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, you can do so by clicking the button at the end of the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all again real soon.